option that many people in this country favour, according to a new poll today. They want an election and they want to have their say sooner rather than later. Sir John Curtice is a polling expert and Professor of Politics at the University of Strathclyde. Professor, good to have you back on the programme tonight. So Rishi Sunak, on course, according to the conventional wisdom in Westminster, to hold out until the autumn before calling an election. If he does so, we learned today, he's going to be even more unpopular than he is now. Good evening.
Well, whether at the end of the day how people vote in the election is going to be heavily determined by whether Rishi Sunak goes for an election in May or in October. Probably, in truth, is not that important. I mean, the polling figures you're reflecting, whereby most people want an election relatively soon, is a reflection of the fact that the government is already unpopular, has been unpopular for some quite considerable time, and a large section of the electorate, at the moment at least, would like to see the back of it. But they're not going to be even keen on seeing the back of it necessarily in the autumn as opposed to May. The truth is, in the end, Rishi Sunak will make a decision partly in the interest of his party, but also partly in his own interest. And those two things aren't necessarily entirely in line with each other. There are those in his party who think that the advantage of going in the spring is perhaps they may not lose so badly. But you have to remember that if whether Mr. Sunak loses the election badly or not so badly, it's probably the end of his political career. And therefore, the choice that he faces is, does he take the risk of going to the country in 18 months, or does he at least bank having been Prime Minister for 2 years? And one suspects that unless the polls turn around, frankly, before the budget on the 6th of March, as it's now set for, and there was some sign that perhaps the electorate have changed their mind, that he's probably going to bank the 2 years.
Elsewhere, Professor, today, David Davis issuing a somewhat unsolicited rallying call to his fellow Tory MPs, insisting that there is all still to play for, that all is not lost, the Tories can still turn this around. Is that a view that you share?
Well, all is never all lost, but the Conservative Party does, I think, to quote another phrase that's being used, face a steep and narrow path to whatever victory they might be able to achieve. They've got three essential problems. The one is the state of the economy, and although the fact that a lot of this is a consequence of the pandemic and the Russian-Ukraine war. However, because of the ill-fated Liz Truss administration 15 months ago, the public associate the Conservatives as being, many of them at least, regard the Conservatives as being at fault, and they now doubt their economic competence. Second problem they face is that despite the fact that we've got record levels of taxation, and we will continue to have record levels of taxation, despite the cuts that Jeremy Hunt made in national insurance that will kick in this month, despite that, the public service is not working, in particularly the health service, and the fact that we're just about to start another round of 6 days of junior doctors' strikes in England means that those waiting lists, which are causing considerable angst amongst the public and high levels of dissatisfaction with the NHS, which is feeding into people not being willing to vote Conservative again, that's the second problem they have to solve. The third problem is a wider issue of ethics and leadership. It's still the fact that hanging around the Conservative Party are those parties, stroke gatherings that took place in 10 Downing Street under Boris Johnson's leadership, and there's that sense of they said one thing but did another.